Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Yang Rui in Beijing. On April the 11th, China released an ambitious plan which advances the goal of the country to become a top-class football nation by 2050. To achieve this goal, the plan sets out several major tasks, including establishing an institutional system, cultivating soccer talents, and setting up fields and facilities, among other things. Why has China released such a plan to promote football in the country? What problems currently exist in China's football, and what could we expect from the football reforms? To discuss all these and other issues, I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Liu Yi, Vice President and Head of Football at IMG China, and Mr. Dong Jin, a sports commentator. Before we start the interview, let's take a look at this background report.
A roadmap to the World Cup. China's NDRC issued a mid- and long-term development plan for Chinese soccer. It could be the first step of China progressing into a new stage on the global football landscape.
The mid- and long-term development plan comes down in a continuous line with the overall reform plan. The new plan gives more details, including goals to achieve by 2020, 2030, and 2050. It is a satisfying blueprint.
In March 2015, the Chinese government released the overall plan to boost the development of soccer in China. The semi-administrative China Football Association terminated its affiliation with the General Administration of Sport of China last August. That shift marked the full marketization of China's soccer industry. According to the new blueprint, the sport's growth will go through three phases. Firstly, a foundation for the sport should be laid by 2020. If all goes according to plan, the number of schools with a specialty in soccer will reach 20,000, and there will be over 30 million primary and middle school students who often play soccer. The second phase is expected to take place between 2021 and 2030. The national men's team will rise to the top in Asia, and China's women's team will be among the world's leading women's teams. In the third phase that spans the next 20 years, China will go all out to realize the goals of being the top soccer nation and all-round development of Chinese soccer.
Gentlemen, many people have been asking tearfully one same question since the late 1970s as to why among the 1.3 billion people we cannot find 11 to put up a serious fight on the football pitch on a global scale and compete with the other major players. Is that a national shame?
It's easy to say you have 1.3 billion people as a population, okay? But does that mean, okay, you have 1.3 billion people to play football? So if you look at the football pyramid structure, so probably we don't have enough, at a grassroots level to play football and participate in the sports. So, and also professional level, so if you look at the league, okay, it's not being fully developed, okay, or better, okay, structured or administrators, okay, so which the way it's supposed to be, and also that's why, okay, if you push up to the pinnacle point at the top, the national team, okay, has been always disappointing, and okay, failing to perform on the pitch. Probably that's my view, okay, input about the poor performance of the national squad all the time.
Dong Jin, what do you think of
I don't think the question or the logic is relevant, because if you look at some of the other bigger, very big countries, populous countries like India, the United States, where
they even don't care about Olympic Games.
The U.S. has a very solid, very strong base of other sports, but it doesn't necessarily produce a superpower among men's football. And neither, is the former Soviet state, although they won an Olympic title, but they were never a world power to reckon with. So I don't think it's necessarily, such a logic comparing, the level of the national team with total population. And I agree with Mr. Liu that it may have some logical relationship with the actual number of people who actually play football on a regular basis.
Many years ago, Mr. Deng Xiaoping, our late paramount leader, asked almost the same question as to why we had this awful and embarrassing underperformance in football pitch. But he only said something like, 要从娃娃抓起, okay, let's start the primary education about football culture. And then he stopped short of, setting up such an ambitious blueprint like mid-term and long-term blueprint by the National Development Reform Commission. This time around, why does China care so much? Is that because of Mr. Xi Jinping, our highest office, cares a lot about this?
Well, I think, apart from being a fan, of football itself, I think the president wants to revitalize the country, through football as a tool in terms of its economic enhancement and political reform. So football, probably as one of the biggest, I would say, biggest sports in the world, can carry that task to re-strive this country, through many ways. I think that's the purpose of the football reform plan, I think.
Well, of course, it's an important factor that the top leader happens to be an avid fan of football. But, among the other people on top management or administration also embrace this idea that football will do good to the country overall. And with the top leader being a fan, would encourage them to come up with an overall plan to encourage, a national strategy to be oriented toward development of football. Because, in the next half century, it's unrealistic, it's still possible, but unrealistic for the country to create a new game that can generate and motivate, mobilize a lot of people to play without relying on foreign export or trade or other manufacturing businesses, but instead with such a game already available and loved and proved to be quite successful elsewhere in the world, and China happens to be such a populous country, if with one side involving at least 11 players, it's the biggest sport game ever created by human beings to be played and fits so good to China's own situation, and it creates a lot of businesses and creates jobs.
That's exactly my follow-up question as to why I have been impressed deeply by some of the super rich Russian oligarchs who were the owner of very famous football clubs in Europe. At the same time, I hate to associate Jack Ma with the Russian oligarchs, but he and Alibaba invest heavily in the football industry, which might be a hugely lucrative industry, right? So what do you think of the business opportunities for a country which is already a second biggest economy?
Oh yeah, so football business itself is it's got so much potential and capacities. So, and I think from the infrastructure wise, stadium management, construction, right up to the athletes management, TV rights deal, TV production, and also manufacturing, licensed merchandise, and management consulting services. So it's a wide spectrum of business components in the industry. I think which is as you said, it's very, very lucrative. It's very broadened. So I would say it carries a broadened range of the service scopes, and business scopes, in this matter. So I think I think football itself, it's a very unique business to carry, in the country. I think that's why that central government is so much encouraged to issue or to implement such kind of development plan.
In fact, if you follow the development of China's football industry over the past 2 decades at least, you were impressed by the alleged over-commercialization of some of the football matches to such a degree where we saw rampant corruption. And President Xi Jinping started setting his agenda for football development by high-handed crackdown upon the corruption. What do you think of the issue of commercialization and what we call business opportunities and the relationship between the two stuffs?
I think before enough people, among the national population, engage in playing football, it remains at the level of being a kind of entertainment. When some professional players, including those imports from abroad, play together in a league and with a lot of advertisement and also promotion of the matches, it just serves as an entertainment for fans. Although they don't necessarily agree that this is entertainment for them, but in nature it's not much more than entertainment. But now, with the state encouraging more people to play, it enlarges much beyond being entertainment. If you look at football as a game, as a process of creating some results that will help the population to improve their team spirit, to improve their mental and health fitnesses, and also eventually more service mentality. That would do good for the overall economy.
Liu Yi and Dongjun, I'd like you guys to take a closer look at the football itself, the charm and the vulnerability in the Chinese case. For example, China became the biggest winner of gold and silver medals for the Olympic Games in the track and field and in ping pong in particular. We started the ping pong diplomacy and the process of normalizing the bilateral relationship between the United States and China in the early 1970s, but we failed in a very embarrassing way to win any serious competitions on the football pitch. Why have we had such a huge gap between competitions in many other fields and football itself? What's wrong with our understanding about football itself?
Well, football, it's, as I said, it's very different than the rest of the other sports. Okay, football is very developed, okay, very sophisticated game today, okay, in terms of its sports science, okay, and coaching, training, competition, okay, events, marketing, and also broadcasting as a whole, okay. But the rest of the other sports which China has been very good at is all Olympic sports, very niche sports, okay, so which it's easy for Chinese to perform, okay, or to win the gold medals, okay, as long as we find individuals, okay, to play or to participate or to be trained, okay, actually. So, but sports is football. Sorry, it's very, very different. Okay, so you got so many players.
Exactly,
around.
football is different in many ways, of course.
However, it's one of the few team sports awarded by the Olympics, and China hasn't been very good in any team sports except for women's volleyball.
Yeah.
Well, we won big in track and field because of the alleged whole nation system.
Yeah.
Why can't we leverage this whole nation system resources for doing the same? I mean, elevating the level of performance on the football pitch to a historic high, using the same advantage, Dongjun.
Well, if you look at the number of people who actually practice sports, not necessarily football, the number is still relatively small. I mean, against the total population of China. I mean, compared to the rest of the world. And secondly, football requires mid to long-term investment. It doesn't reward very quickly. So among those talented young people who want to develop into sports, football in China is not the best rewarding choice. But if you look at the powerhouses of football in the world, from Germany to Brazil to Argentina, football are among very few sports for young people to chase, to choose from. That is not the case in China. If you develop into ping pong, badminton, diving, it rewards you very quickly.
Now let's look at some of the specific issues concerning the underdevelopment of China's football industry. For example, why do we have such a few number of pitches throughout the whole country? And as an important part of this ambitious blueprint for the mid and long-term development, the construction of pitches and astronomical figure for such a budget immediately captured the media attention.
Yeah.
Is China ready? Are we prepared to, given the adversity of local debts at this moment, do you think governments at different levels are well prepared to follow the highest instructions from Beijing?
Very unlikely. So I think it's great to have this plan in place or being released by the central government, okay, which looks very empowered, okay, but do we have a pragmatic and highly integrated delivery plan to support it? Okay, that's my question, number one. And also, by saying that, we don't have, okay, everybody knows that we don't have sufficient playing pitches, training grounds, okay, at regional level, okay, particular city council, okay, and each dotting around the country, but because the lands are all owned by the governments, and for the last 20 years, property industry has been dominating the economy, or has been hijacking the economy.
It's what we
China.
call the biggest source of land revenue. Very unhealthy development between government and the property developers.
Yeah, absolutely. So are the governments at a different level, okay, from the central, provincial, city level, okay, or even county level, are they prepared to release, to switch from the revenue generation, okay, resources which highly rely on pound, okay, the land, okay, developments, okay, right through to the much more hybrid, okay, I would say hybrid, okay, so business models, okay, let's say releasing some land to the public facilities, okay, the users, okay, and playing football, training, okay, basketball, whatever, okay, are they ready? Okay, we don't know. So that really rely upon, okay, the central governments to develop another delivery plan or action plan or route map to support it. Okay, that's the key, I think, for the final success.
Even, I mean, let's look at the first-tier cities where seldom could we find laws big enough to enlighten our mind and heart, to please our mind and heart. Shanghai might be a very nice exception. Dalian could follow suit in a very nice way. Beijing, look at the CBD. Seldom could you find laws big enough for relaxation. I mean, this is a shame, isn't it? To see nothing of the luxury building so many football pitches.
Without, still we paying a tribute to those efforts over the past decades of planting more trees near Beijing. I think, generally speaking, and historically, Beijing, or a total North China or Hebei province, at the eastern edge of a long belt of desertification. And take golf, for example, although the government is also trying to regulate and control the spread of golf courses, and it's actually a very expensive and costly business to maintain.
You're right. When we come back after the short break, we'll discuss challenges lying ahead for building pitches. You are watching our discussion about why football development has been prioritized on the agenda of this generation of Chinese leadership. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stay with us. Louis and Dongjun, how difficult it is to have enough pitches to live up to the expectations of this ambitious blueprint?
Yeah, I would say it's a challenge. Okay, recently we visited some cities, major cities, to launch the international youth tournament, and even a city like Nanjing, which we know is a very developed city.
That's the capital city of Jiangsu province.
Which is one of the most
highly prosperous.
Yeah, one of the most lucrative areas, okay, in China, Yangtze Delta region, and we can't find enough, okay, qualified pitches for the international teams to just do the training before the games. Okay, so that's pretty shame actually. So, and the government really has to be cautious about the great opportunities to deliver more training grounds or facilities for the youngsters to play football. Okay, so are we ready to shift, as I said, to the land, property, development economy?
Dongjun, we have been discussing adversity of the next stage of economic development of the local governments following the idea of land revenue. We talked about that before we took the break. So don't you think this is a good idea for the local authorities to turn the football blueprint into yet another big opportunity of local development? For example, they were talking only about building Ditie, the subway system. That's a lot of a budget, a lot of money. However, building football pitches may not require equally big amount of budget. So do you think this is also a matter of brainstorming, how to change your mindset?
I'm not that familiar with real estate development, but I can guess for the time being, with another round of, housing prices boom around the country, it's still difficult, or it takes a lot of courage for the local authorities to really determine that, okay, this piece of land is not for some high-rise residential buildings to sell for better prices, but instead let it keep flat.
In other words, do you think this is the job of the government or the market forces from the non-public sector to provide the products of football pitches? I mean, do you think this is the government's role to provide public services and public goods such as football pitches?
I think it involves many stakeholders in this game. Definitely government. So plays a vital role to provide opportunities. To provide the lands. Particularly, but the private sector. Which is being unlocked at the moment in terms of investment into football. So it has to be smart enough. To provide a viable commercial solution to build, operate and manage the facilities actually. So I think that's the way to take the football infrastructure to the next level.
Dongjun, before we wrap up this very interesting discussion, would you take a look at the idea of investing so heavily in football superstar transfer? I mean, we spend billions of dollars importing talented football stars from Europe and Latin America. Will that pay off very quickly? Do you think this is a good approach? Is that a very important part of the roadmap?
I'm only partially, optimistic. I think it's just like a competition among all clubs. Many of whom who haven't used to be very hesitant, but now they have to, play the game. It's like a bubble gradually being built and for bursting sometime. But overall, now with such a national strategy, guidance from the state, you build a mid to long-term confidence. Although some bubbles may burst within 3 or 5 years, overall we should keep on working on this. In this direction.
You come from the auction industry. Do you think in both industries we have a lot of bubbles, and the bubbles are likely
similar
to
stories
burst?
are heard almost everywhere in almost every industry.
But what about building very expensive professional clubs?
Yeah, well,
leagues.
So to have those expensive, eye-catching, elite players from an international platform, which is going to help the league and the clubs, to enhance our portfolio and profile at international level. So just before we walk into the studio, so the French broadcaster just signed up the broadcasting rights through IMG to broadcast what's it called, the CSL games, which is good for the league, which is good for the Chinese club to start with. But at the end of the day, you need to develop your local talents, to be part of the game, And I think so, which it works, but which is not sustainable, to have imports, for the short term, yes, it works, but for the long run, probably we need to look into our own grassroots level and programs, to develop our own talents.
Earlier, the China Football Association was separated from the government. Yeah. It's meant to be independent. Is that a good story for our serious start of developing the football industry?
It's a step that Chinese football has to take. You don't have an alternative, any other choice. You have to take this step toward the standardization of your system to be compatible with the world system. Actually, FIFA or the international football system has been quite tolerant toward China's system, and now it's time for China to act, and it will do good for China's own football development itself. I think it's the right choice, the right decision.
Then why do we have this joint effort from the Ministry of Education, the National Reform and Development Commission, as well as other key agencies and departments of State Council to promote the idea of developing the football industry?
But football is much more than football itself. It's a very sophisticated operation. So it has to involve major stakeholders in this game, particularly in China. So for instance, we understand school has to promote the sports, sports participation, so which involves the Ministry of Education. And the land is owned by the local city council, so it has to involve, the local regional governments. So we have to all work together to deliver the objective, the same goal set by the central government.
Is talking about the importance of having the whole nation system. Again, we return to the point of a whole nation system. Do you think this is an overwhelming superiority that China could leverage?
I really believe so. I think it's still a habit, and it's still in this momentum that the whole population or various businesses still have to follow the guideline, by the government. It's still up to the top leadership to find the right direction for the country to go. And this most recently the promulgated guidance is just something on the national level. It's still up to various levels to come up with their own sound business plans.
We have the role of the government, the role of the market forces, but also the role of the parents. When we talk about how to integrate football training and education into the primary institutions of education at the different levels, then the next question is naturally whether Chinese parents are ready, because so many of them pay more attention to the education of mathematics, physics, chemistry, and Chinese, so on and so forth, for the promotion of humanities. But football match, I mean, may have called those parents totally unprepared. I mean, they are utterly off the equilibrium psychologically at this moment. Do you think they're going to support this idea?
Not right now. Okay, most of the parents do. They don't believe soccer participation or soccer is not a career to pursue. Okay, and at the moment, but actually football itself, as I said, it's a business itself. Okay, so actually, if the kids cannot, okay, so not many kids can be a professional footballer at the end of the day, but it can be a football doctor, football specialist, football marketing officer, football events manager, and football coaches even. Okay, so I think football has a wide spectrum of the business opportunities for the youngsters.
But such a wide range of things related to football industry should be examined at a higher level, not at the primary level. For this primary level of the education in terms of football industry, Dongjun, is it a wise idea to take football as an important part, an indispensable part of the curriculum? I mean, that's something that truly worries the parents.
I can't say it's not controversial. It has controversies even among football professionals looking at this,
But do you foresee structural contradictions between football education and education about the mathematics, physics? I mean, these things are very, I mean, the mathematics is so important for people to enter universities and colleges, but football, I mean, if it takes too much of the children's time, then it could be a big problem.
The parents have to understand, okay, sports participation like football, it's going to help build up, okay, the personality of the youngsters, okay, so to make the youngster a better person in the future, okay, that's Chinese parents have to understand, okay, so they don't have to, okay, necessarily to be a professional footballer, okay, so that's number one. Number two, I think by developing the professional league with a lot of footballers being highly paid or handsomely paid, okay, or compensated, okay, which is an encouragement for the parents to send the kids through the career, of football.
We need to first of all persuade the parents, young parents in particular, to accept football education, something very close to, for example, music education. If your children could play on the piano, that's fine. That's aristocratic. It's beautiful, noble. But for football, I hope I can bring you guys back for the next round and follow-up discussion about football and the prospects of having a successful football industry in China, particularly by the year 2050. Until next time, goodbye.